Documents that I want you to take a look at. The one that has the color red on it is a very important document for you because it will tell you who can carry concealed in these locations. If it's red, it's a no. So the question is, can I carry my weapon into your church? Can I carry my weapon into your school? These guys can carry it anywhere they want to, except maybe the federal courthouse. I went in to get a prisoner in the federal courthouse in Winston-Salem. Decked out in my uniform, had my gun, they had a prisoner. I said, came to get a prisoner, leave your gun right here. I came to get a prisoner. Nobody carries but us in our courthouse. You carry in yours, we carry in ours. Yes, sir, no problem. Take my gun, I get my prisoner, and I got it. So there are rules. We have rules. I'm not able to carry on school property. They are. Carry concealed openly, whatever they want to. I'm not allowed to carry my taser. I'm not allowed to carry my firearm on the school property. In this presentation, there is a slide that we're going to look at. It's going to tell you that if your church has a school on the property, concealed weapons are not allowed. And that is the opinion of these attorneys. The attorneys that did this are with the Sheriff's Association, and one of them was with the Attorney General's office, and that is their opinion. There is a difference of opinion among some attorneys. I will tell you that some attorneys say, well, the school is on church property. The church is not on school property. And that brings up a difference of opinion. I will tell you that my opinion is whatever the district attorney decides to prosecute. If he decides, okay, it's all school property, we're going to prosecute anybody that carries a gun on school property, then that's the law. If the DA says, no, that's not the way we're going to look at it. If you're in the church congregation and you have carry concealed and the church won't say it, we're okay. Even though you might have a school on the same property, maybe it's attached buildings, maybe it's detached buildings, it brings up a problem.
Does that include preschools?
The way they look at it is, if it is a educational school that is accepted by the state of North Carolina as being something that's accredited by the school system, and that's the way they're going to look at it. One of the things that I like to think about is the document that you've got there that has some, talks about deadly force. I can remember in 1979 that we would hear a lot of citizens say, well, I talked to the sheriff. He said if somebody tries to break in my house, to open the door, shoot them, and drag them in. And I can promise you, I've heard that so many times, I almost believe it to be true. The state of the law in North Carolina with regards to your right to use deadly force is you have to believe that there is an imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury present right now. And number two, you have to be in a place you have a right to be. In other words, I'm not breaking into your house and going to use deadly force because you're trying to shoot me for breaking into your house. If you're in a place where you have a right to be, and we have what for years was called the castle doctrine. I'm the king of the castle. This is my house. Well, your church, if you work there, you are considered to be employees of the church. That's your castle. In your car, you're king of the castle. In your home, you're king of the castle. We changed the castle doctrine a few years back to include if you're in your home, if you're at your place of employment, or if you're in your vehicle. You have a right to use deadly force, and you do not have to retreat if someone confronts you with deadly force. Otherwise, if you're in Walmart, you're in the grocery store, and somebody comes up and threatens you, you're supposed to run and retreat if you can. But if you can't, you can stand your ground and use deadly force in return. But if you're in your home and somebody's breaking in, you don't have to open the door and shoot them and drag them in. If they're in the process of breaking into your home and you feel that you and your family are under an imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury or sexual assault, you have the right to shoot that person and drop them where they stand. If they're outside the house, leave them there. Let them bleed to death there while the EMS gets there. Amen.
Hey, that means it's time for an offering right there.
Stop right here.
I want to tell you something that is hard to believe. Once they get in your house, there are some concerns about whether or not you suddenly have a revelation and say, oh my God, this is my neighbor. He's drunk. He's in the wrong house. And that has happened. I have actually been on a call and gone to somebody's house and found their next door neighbor, a person across the street, curled up on their bed in their bedroom, drunk and asleep. And they knew that they were being broke into, and they didn't shoot him, and he got in the house and just went in somewhere and laid down. That has actually happened. And the law says that if the person breaks in and it's that type of situation and they don't present a threat to you, you're not supposed to use deadly force. You can use reasonable force. But that's why I say get them before they get in. Drop it. As long as they're a threat, you have a right to take deadly force and use it, and that will be considered reasonable under the circumstances. So the things that are important to you is, I fear that there is an imminent threat of death, serious bodily injury, or sexual assault if this person gets into the house or gets to me, whether you're in your car or at your church. And if that person is a threat to you, and it's based on a reasonable person situation, whether or not a reasonable person in our crowd would believe that there is a threat. If there is, you take whatever action you feel is necessary. Now, with regards to the hit the deck. This is the one that I have an issue with, and I'll be honest with you. I think we're going to have probably 4 or 5 different schools that I know of. I know Indian Trail, Metro Christian Academy. I have family that goes there. It's a school and a church. I know we have, I believe, Tabernacle Christian, I believe, has a school on premises. Anybody else got a school on premises that we know of? Those are important ones because if you see this, it says if church services are held on school property, in other words, you don't have a place to go, so you tell the county schools you want to use one of their buildings that's vacant on Sunday, you cannot carry a weapon there. That doesn't make it a church. It's still a school. You cannot carry that weapon. Now, if a school activity takes place at your church and you don't have a school there, during the time that that school activity is going on in your church, it's a school. No weapons allowed. So you have to take into consideration that based on where you are, what is it being used for? Now, here they also, like I said, they tell you that if the church property has a school on it, based on their opinion, they feel like it is a school property, no matter where you are. I have a disagreement with that, but I'm not the expert. It's going to be the DA that's going to have to make a decision about whether you can carry it or not. I would encourage you to talk with your attorney, let your attorneys make the decision. Sheriff Kathy and I have discussed this, and we don't particularly like where they came up with this particular issue, but right now, as it stands with this presentation, until you're told otherwise by an attorney that you have, this presentation says if your church also has a particular school like Metro Christian Academy on the premises, they interpret that to mean that all property is school property and you can't carry it with it. I don't think that's the intent. I think the intent of the legislature was to have church property and school property if you don't blend the two in. But you know as well as I do, if you go to Metro, they're going to use the church for big presentations. I go there for graduations, sing-alongs, that type of thing. So the character of the property can change. So if it is being used for school property, the law in North Carolina is nobody but law enforcement and certain other individuals can carry weapons on that property. The district attorney can carry them. Your legislature can carry them. Clerk of court, register of deeds, a few other people. Why? I don't know. The judges, they can carry weapons anywhere they want to, pretty much except federal property. I tell our courtroom people, the only people that should have a gun in the courtroom is us. I would tell you, the only people that should have a gun in your church is you. This presentation shows you some different things about what you could do. You could say, we're a gun-free church, there's no guns. I'll be honest with you. In a perfect world, that's what I would want. But in a perfect world, we'd have metal detectors at every door. People would go through the TSA thing to see if they had a weapon on them, and we would know that when we sat down, there wasn't nobody there but the good Lord and us and no weapons. But that's not it. So you as a church have to make a decision. Do you want to go gun-free, or do you want people in the church that are going to be armed. If you're going to arm people, number one, you need to know who they are. You need to know if they're a convicted felon. You need to know that they can mentally handle the situation. That's something you're going to have to determine. I can tell you that I have actually been involved in situations in Winston-Salem when I was up there with the sheriff up there. We actually had an officer that could not do what he needed to do, and as a result of him being at an incident for 14 minutes and not shooting a guy, total of 4 people killed, 5 wounded, and I know 3 people got shot while he was there. He couldn't do anything. Good guy, trained him the best we could. When it came down to it, he couldn't do it. He couldn't shoot that way. I don't know why. I have no idea. So you need to make sure that you've got the proper people that can take action when they need to take action. It's going to take a lot of work for you, and you're going to have to do things that you may have some hurt feelings, but you got to do what's right. I will tell you that if you do it, go in at 100%. Don't hold back. You need to go in and make the right decisions and do what's good for your church, even though you may hurt some feelings. There's going to be some people that won't volunteer to carry that gun, and everybody that volunteers is not the right person to carry that gun. Next one. If a religious, next one. And these are the ones that I was telling you, the people that can carry firearms on school property, and we're concerned about who can and who cannot. And 14-269B, in some of the paperwork you've got, there's a good discussion of that. I've got one other handout I didn't give you. It is here for you, and if you want it, when we finish, you're welcome to it. This is a much thicker one. We'll make sure all of our school resource people have them. This is called North Carolina Firearms Law. I have it printed. It's a very long thing. It talks about all the different laws, 40-something pages. It'll give you a good discussion about who can carry conceal, who can buy a gun, who can sell a gun. Did you know in North Carolina right now that if you sell a pistol or a handgun to someone else, you need a permit? Anybody ever told you that? You actually have to have a permit from the sheriff to receive or buy a gun. If I buy a firearm, I have to give you a gun permit, or I have to have a carry conceal permit to show you and let you make a copy of to show that I have the right to receive that gun. You can't give me a gun, not as my father, not as my mother, not as my wife, unless I have a gun permit or a carry conceal permit. That's right, handgun. Long guns, we don't have that. They do what they call a NICS check at the federal level. You have to be 21 to purchase a handgun from a firearms dealer. But you can buy one at age 18 if you have a firearms permit and you buy it from an individual. I can give my child, my niece, my nephew, if they're 18, 19, or 20 years old, I can give them a handgun if they get a permit. If you go get your carry conceal permit when you're 21, you can use that as your gun purchase permit and obtain a weapon. If I leave you my guns when I die, the executor has to get a permit from you to give you my handguns unless you have carry conceal. So there are a lot of laws there that deal with it that people completely ignore. That's why we have a lot of firearms that get stolen. We don't know who owned them, who sold them. ATF can usually tell you the first buy, where I purchased it, and once it got stolen at my house, who knows where it went? Because everybody's supposed to have a permit. Go ahead and next. More people that can carry firearms. I'm not going to worry about armed security guards. Employee at the school who lives on the campus and has a concealed carry permit. This is more for colleges like Wingate College. If I'm working for Wingate College, I'm their employee, and I have a carry concealed permit. I keep my gun in my car. It has to be locked or on my person. I can get out and take it into my house, but that's it. I can't carry it on school property or anything. Next, please. I'm going to turn it back over to Andy. We have this presentation on PowerPoint. We have an outline based on this presentation that we can give you. We've got a list back here that we're going to have. If you want the presentations, we can email to you. We'll print them for you if you want to. I'm Bill McWhirter. If you need anything from me, I'm going to give you a phone number and an email address. My phone number to my office is area code 704-292-2674. If you call our agency, the regular number, and tell them you want to speak to me, they'll transfer you to you. If you need me and it's an emergency, you can't get me at 704-320-6744 is my cell number. I don't give out to everybody, but I see a good group of Baptist people. I trust you. If you need me, you call. My email address, if you need to get anything from me as far as these publications or this one up here, is William McWhirter, all one word, and that's McGuirt, and all of our emails are the same. It's at unioncounty.nc.gov. So William McGuirt at unioncounty.nc.gov. And again, phone numbers, office is